So welcome. My name is Sally Hogg and I am the coordinator of the First 1,000 Days movement. I hope that by coming today you all know who we are, but just a little bit of background. We're a campaigning alliance of 200 charities and professional bodies from right across the UK, and we work together to highlight the importance of the period from conception to 2, and particularly baby's social and emotional wellbeing within that. And one of the things that we started doing late last year, because we have such a wealth of insight and knowledge and experience amongst our membership and the partner organisations that work with us, is to have these monthly lunchtime webinars where particular members of the movement can just share interesting work that they're doing that others might be able to learn from or connect with or amplify. So I'm really grateful to Jen and the Easy Peasy team for joining us today and volunteering to run one of these webinars. So I'm going to stop now and hand over to them to talk to you about the Easy Peasy app and the work they're doing. We would love to have a lot of discussion at the end of this session. So if you've got questions and answers, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen on Zoom, and we will try and make sure we get through all of those questions at the end of the session. Okay, over to you, Jen.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Sal. Yeah, it's really great to be here. I'm really delighted to be joining everyone. I'm Jen Lexmond. I'm founder and CEO at Easy Peasy, and I'm joined today by a couple of my colleagues. We've got Steph, who's our community manager, and also Martin, who's our product lead. And we'll be hearing from both of them throughout the presentation and the Q&A. And I'm also particularly delighted that I have our colleague Alice here from Save the Children as well, who I have asked to come and help to co-present today. Alice, do you want to say a quick hello?
Hello, hi, I'm Alice. As Jen says, I'm from Save the Children here with Jen and the team to give a bit of insight into our early learning community work and how we've worked with Easy Peasy to support families, particularly in Margate. So I look forward to sharing a little bit about that later on, and thrilled to be here.
Amazing. Thanks, Alice. Okay, so I am going to share my screen and get a few slides up. Can everyone see that before I get going? All right, sweet. So yeah, we're really pleased to be here today. We're going to share some information with you guys about the Easy Peasy app, our organization, but particularly how we work with partner organizations across the early years sector to use the app as part of a strength-based strategy in local communities with the aim of reducing gaps in early outcomes. You know, our vision at Easy Peasy is a world where all children have an equal opportunity to reach their full potential. And the express way that we're working to do that is through narrowing gaps in the good level of development that we measure at the end of reception here in the UK, because we know it's such a large predictor of future outcomes. And we really believe that technology has an important role to play in delivering quality parenting support and early years outcomes cost effectively and at scale. And we also believe technology can only be successful when it's properly integrated with services on the ground. So as everyone in this audience surely knows only too well, around 85% of babies' brains have developed by age 5. But actually, it's really a minority of parents who still recognize the importance of the early years. And we know positive parent-child interactions are the single biggest influence on children's healthy early development, but most parents report feeling judged by others and lacking adequate support. And that's why our mission at Easy Peasy has always been to support parents, to help them give their children the very best start in life. And we know that parents' starting point is that they want the best for their children, and the app is really designed to provide the connections and the support and the real-world inspiration to help along the way. So what does the app do? Really, it's giving parents of 0 to 5-year-old children advice and ideas from a wide community of parents, experts, and early years organizations, many of whom within that community are actually generating and sharing their own ideas and advice on the app. So there's a real emphasis on user-generated content. And we're going to hear more about how that's working and how it's supporting empowering parents and strength-based approaches in local communities from Alice a little bit later on, from Save the Children, who are one of our partners. within the app, all of this content is discoverable by parents, by the user, through an AI-based feed that sends the most relevant content to each parent based on their profile data and also their interactions on the app. And it's therefore allowing us to deliver a genuinely like individual and personalized experience to each one of our thousands of users that's actually growing with them over time, and the more that they use the app and interact with it. And Martin is going to show a little bit more about how that looks in practice through a product demo in a couple of minutes. So the app doesn't involve any screen time at all for children, and the advice and the activities on the app are all designed for real world use. And really that kind of goes to the heart of our theory of change, which is that improving child outcomes comes through finding ways to inspire and drive up the quantity and quality of interactions between parents and children in and around the home. And that theory of change runs firmly through our whole product development strategy and our whole content strategy as well. So the technology is really there to reach parents at scale and to have that fidelity in the way that it's delivered. But all of our design and features are to encourage parents to put their phone down and directly engage with their children in the real world. So over the past 6-7 years since we've been going, we've supported so many parents, thousands and thousands of parents across the UK, increasingly international as well, through third and public sector partnerships, including with many local authorities, a partnership with the Department of Education, and a real range of third sector partners as well. Our parent community is one of our biggest assets, in my view, and their feedback is what guides the iterative development of the app. And we're also delighted that we've been able to field parents from our community to get their views shared directly to government and policy circles. So for example, most recently, we worked with the Andrea Leadsom Start for Life review to get some of our easy peasy parents onto their panels. The ongoing development of the app is supported through a range of funders. So including Innovate UK, the Wellcome Trust, Esme Fairbairn, Lego, and a whole host of others. So the way that our app works has been sort of borne out in a number of evaluations that we have worked with independent partners to run. And I guess like the main evidence base that we've developed shows that the way the app is working is that it's first driving improvements in the home environment, and then that's leading on to improvements in child outcomes. Now, most of these studies find that impact in around 6 to 10 weeks of the app being available to families. And I just want to share a couple of examples of that. So in 2019, the app was made available to 13 reception classes in Oxfordshire for 8 weeks. And the schools, they were split into intervention and control and matched on pupil premium, special educational needs, English as an additional language, and also foundation stage performance. And a total of 52 children were in that intervention group. At the end of a 20-week follow-up period, 85% of the children in the intervention group, went on to achieve a good level of development as assessed by their teachers, compared to 65% of those in the comparison group. So even in that small kind of set of children, that's actually 10 more of those children who were achieving a good level of development that year. Now, the cost at that time of delivering the app to that small group was about £24 per family, but that's a cost that really decreases significantly with scale, and today can actually get to under £1 per family through the right sorts of partnerships. So being able to kind of extend that type of impact to a much wider group of families. The second study I wanted to highlight is just the work that was done through the Education Endowment Foundation, led by the University of Durham, where we had 102 nurseries, and the researchers reported pretty big statistically significant gains in a number of measures of the home learning environment, so responsivity, modeling, variety of activities and interactions. And they also found children making an extra month's progress in a couple of different areas of language and communication development. Now, in that study, they also particularly were looking at kind of the amount of time it takes to kind of get the intervention going from the practitioner point of view. And they found around 23 hours across a year from practitioners to set it up, provide ongoing support and encouragement to the parents participating. So it's a relatively low, kind of low cost in terms of time as well. There's a lot more I would love to say, but I always really prefer to kind of move on to others, show rather than tell, and I'll be delighted to kind of speak with you guys after the presentation as well. So I'm gonna pass on to my colleague Martin, and he's gonna actually show you guys the app, kind of from the point of view a little bit of one of our current partners, which is Essex County Council, where we're currently working to narrow gaps in early language and communication, and that's through one of our current partnerships with the charity ICANN, which is funded by the DFE. So I'm gonna stop sharing now and pass over to Martin.
Cool. Thanks, Jen. And thanks for giving us a chance to talk to the group. It's really exciting. So I'm just going to share my screen quickly. Sorry, you'll see my voice. So basically, we have a set of print and digital collateral that we send out to our partners. And in this case, as Jen said, this is Essex. On that collateral, which can be shared either physically or digitally, are QR codes. The QR code, when scanned by the parents, will be taken to this very simple sign-up form, where they're asked to add their email, a postcode is optional, and a password. When they've finished and completed this, they've actually registered for Easy Peasy at that point. And what they can do then is they're directed to the App Store or the Play Store to download the app and continue their journeys. So I will then spin quickly to the app. When they go through the app and register, well, when they finish and arrive at their feed, as Jen said, this is a feed that learns and grows with the parents over time. The core areas of it are the child's age and also a series of topics that the parent has chosen that they want to either learn more or interested in developing skills around. What you'll see here is a set of different content. Each content, is, you can see, is given an age range. So this one is 0 to 30. And then they have great descriptions which further embellish what's going on. Another point of reference is also they're all labeled with topics, and each of these then take you through to a listing of further pieces of content associated directly with fine motor skills or hand-eye coordination in this example. As Jen said, this project's working with ICANN, and so what I'll do is I'll show you the profile that ICANN have created, and I can do that by searching for them. To go alongside the content that they want to share within the local community within Essex. And if I open it up here, what we've got is a series of pieces of content that they've created. This has all come from their back catalogue of intervention that they share with their parents and groups they work with. I'm going to share the 5 key messages piece of content with you guys. I click on this, again, you can see it saying 0 to 12 is the age range here. If I scroll down, it'll give me a description exactly what it is. Again, it shows me the specific tags that are associated to it. And if I want to view it, I can click on it, and what it'll do, it'll launch in full screen mode. And these are little animated clips. They're broken down into small segments. I can control them, and as you would, if I pause my finger on it, it will pause. If I click left or right, it goes back and forwards. So I can skip through these, but I'll let them play through so you can see them in real time. And they're just really beautiful little tips that help the parent think about the situation, think about what you're doing, and then just give you that headspace to really make that connection really positive with your child. That's the last one. And again, they're just really lovely little interventions that the parent can pick up. The types of content, and at the very end, what we have is what we call the reflection screen. And what we have here are the areas of the app, or the areas of the age and stage of developmental areas that a parent can see the activity they've just, or the tip they've just looked at, are associated to. So if I click on problem solving, it describes exactly what problem solving is. So again, if the parent isn't sure what these developmental areas are or why they are associated to the game, we're giving the parent a chance to understand that and interact with it. So let me just close that up. If I come back out of here, go back to the search, you'll also see that we have a series of moments and series of topics. So again, we can go through these, and we could go to, I don't know, let's go to gross motor, for example. And what it'll do, it'll load a series of elements here again, which we can look at, and they're all focused around this specific topic. Alongside the app, what we're also doing is we're doing other interventions. And one of the ones that we're working with Essex is they picked 5 key topics that they see from the platform. And what we do is we deliver a weekly email. And so I'll show you the language and communication email that went out a couple of weeks ago. So again, what we do here is we contextualize the topic we're talking about in terms of what language and communication is. We have a direct link to the language and communication topic within the app. We then also cherry picked a piece of content that really helps the parent get into this specific topic. And in this case, it's picture conversations. And again, if I click on here, what it does, it takes me directly to the app and shows me that piece of content. So it's very easy for the parent to get involved and understand what they are. What we've also done with Essex as well is we've also targeted local activities, elements, ideas, things that are going on in the local area that they can also get involved in, again, to idea of community and to just help them become the best parent they can possibly be. So I'm going to just stop there. I'm going to pivot to my computer if that's okay, because I just want to show you the client side. Because on the client side, we also show a number of different pieces of data which help the client understand the interventions that we're making. So. Yeah,
that's right. So while Martin kind of moves over to the other view, I just want to introduce really briefly the concept with what we're about to see, which is essentially it's our data dashboard, which is a newer kind of piece of our like suite. And it's really designed to help with the scaling process and with achieving those local strategic aims, particularly around targeted reach, so reaching the right families. So the dashboard is, I guess the goals with it are twofold. So one is being able to report on the impact of sharing the Easy Peasy app, but the second is around using it as a tool to actually drive practitioner activity on the ground. So being able to monitor and understand reach, as well as reach to disadvantaged families. And Martin is going to kind of talk us through a couple of those elements now.
Cool, thanks, Jen. So hopefully everybody can see this. And so this data dashboard is customized for each of our clients. I'll have their logo where you can see this grey box in the top. Just to be clear, this is a mock-up. This isn't real data. This is just a visualization for you guys to get an understanding of what our clients can see. They're able to filter by date and also export reports, which allow them to share it more widely within the organization. The first box here or segment here is all to do with the registration. So what it does, it visualizes the interactions with the parents in terms of the sign-up rate, and it allows our partners to see how their connection with the community or work that they're doing raises the level of sign-ups within their specific cohorts. In the middle here, we have a disadvantage advantage graph, and what this is taking the postcode data that parents are submitting. We're using the ADAKI framework to showcase whether they are in an area that is labeled as disadvantaged or not disadvantaged. And then the third one here is the interactions that parents have on the platform allow us to see what topics or thematics they're really interested in. And again, we present this back to the client so they can see what their cohort are really interested in. Does it match the 5 topics they've picked, or are there other things and insights that they can gain from seeing this data? And at that point, I think I'll stop yapping. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, Martin. Just a quick clarification. The ADAKI framework is the income deprivation affecting children index, for those of you who don't know, which is used across England. So that's kind of the sort of data framework that's underpinning that. Well, time is getting on, and I'm very, very keen that I can pass over to Alice from Save the Children, who has graciously accepted the invitation to share a little bit of some of the work that we've been doing together in the South. So I will just pass straight over to Alice.
So thanks very much, Jen. That's great. I am going to share my screen. So as usual, please bear with me for 1 second as I do that. Just to say for anyone who joined a bit later, I'm Alice. I'm from Save the Children, and I'm here to talk a little bit about how we've worked with Easy Peasy in the one of our early learning communities in Margate. But I just wanted to give a little bit of context to start with, so that you know what an early learning community is. So in about 2018 at Save the Children, we started the early learning community project, and with the intention to improve outcomes for children in their earliest years. We started working in a handful of communities. So Margate is one I've already mentioned, also Sheffield, Feltham in West London, Bettis, which is in Newport in Wales, and more recently in East Belfast. And this has come out of sort of 20 years experience showing that standalone programmes don't change the story for most disadvantaged children, and we really do want to close the gap in early years outcomes for children living in poverty and their better off peers. So rather than working on sort of standalone programmes across the country, we started working in key communities, and we're providing capacity and stewardship in those communities to bring everyone who is relevant to children's early learning together, so parents, schools, health workers, all the people who are likely on the webinar today. And very much taking that strengths-based approach that's been referenced to what are the strengths of the community and how can we build on those. And each community has developed their own theory of change and strategy on how they can close the gap in early years outcomes in their context. So our intention is twofold, is to have that positive impact and improve outcomes for children and families in those local communities, but also sharing learning and influencing policy in the long term too. And so just to bring it back to what we're discussing today and the work that we've done with Easy Peasy in Margate, we had the opportunity to work with them, and it really aligned to what we were seeking to achieve in Margate. You won't be surprised, I'm sure, to hear that in all of our communities there's a focus on how parents can be better supported, because that's a big part of the early years. And you know, whether that's through building knowledge, confidence, access to services. And so in terms of working with Easy Peasy, obviously there's the link there in terms of supporting parents and the focus on early years, and providing that direct support for families through the tips and the advice and everything that they access from the app. But also being able to contribute to the app was a really big part of it too. So through family champions that we identified in Margate, going through workshops to learn how to develop content and add that to the app. We were it was really aligned to our intentions in the early learning communities that we have around co-design and participation being a really central part of the approach that we take. And so just to share some examples of what we've seen. So this is one of the family champions, Autumn, and some of the work that content that she's developed and tips that she shared, and particularly how she supports her autistic son through routines at home, such as bedtime. And this really builds on what we were talking about before, the sort of strengths-based approach I mentioned. So the fact that participation and co-design are building the confidence of parents like Autumn, so benefiting not just from the app itself, but contributing to it, and that being part of their experience. And so we've seen that have a really positive impact in the work that we're doing in Margate and for the parents that we're working with in Margate. And I think it's just a really small example. I don't want to talk for ages, so just think it's a really small example of how national organisations like ourselves can be working in that community setting, so we can have that positive impact on the families and the children in that community, but also we can use what we're learning and what we're seeing to share more widely, like opportunities like today. So it's been a really interesting and really beneficial experience working with Easy Peasy, and so very pleased to be here to talk to it a little bit more, and very happy to answer questions about our ELC work and of course the partnership with Easy Peasy. I'll stop sharing.
Amazing, thanks so much, Alice. Well, that actually brings us to the end of our presentation. So happy to hand back over to Sal at this point, I think.
Thank you, and do everybody watching please put questions into the Q&A or into the chat, because we haven't got anything at the moment, which just gives me the floor to ask lots of questions, which I'll love, but maybe other people will want a chance as well. So yeah, thank you again. I was really fascinated by seeing the kind of layers of support for providers behind that and your dashboard, and I wondered what you'd learned about what the providers can do that really engages parents and kind of encourages that play, because I think the value of Easy Peasy comes from that app paired with that kind of real life support for families. And what have you learned about what works well in real life as well?
Yeah, that's a really great question. It's actually a perfect one for me to field to our community manager, Steph, who's kind of our key yeah, like liaison with practitioners on the ground. Yeah, Steph, can you tell us a little bit more about kind of what works and kind of your reflections on how we can best support practitioners?
Can you hear us okay, Steph?
You're on mute.
I think there's some connection issues.
Ah, okay. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm happy to talk to that while Steph is kind of sorting out her connection issues. I mean, there's a whole host of things that we do as a matter of course when it comes to supporting practitioners on the ground. And so if we take the example of Essex, for example, we're working there with like 25 early years settings. And as like off the get-go, what we do with them is we give them like a big pack of digital and print assets, which they can use to sort of distribute through the local community. And all of that is designed to kind of communicate what the app does, how parents can access it. And then what our community team does, will offer like one-to-one support to practitioners. We'll run a lot of workshops, have drop-in calls for practitioners to kind of like learn about the app, ask questions, but also Steph will often attend like Senko meetings, cluster meetings within the local context, and really kind of become more embedded in what's happening locally. And a big part of that is understanding, it's not just about explaining how the Easy Peasy app works and how it can be used, but it's really very much for us to understand what the local challenges are, or what the kind of strategy is locally. So it might be that there's a big focus on driving up breastfeeding, or it might be that there's a big focus on reducing language and communication gaps in development. And we'll take that information as we build that relationship, and then actually integrate that into what comes out through the app and what's targeted at parents in that local context. So some of the things Martin shared, like the emails, those will be tailored based on what's important to that local area. Local signposting will be embedded within those push notifications and that communication that comes around the core app. And so as we develop a relationship with a local partner, we're basically customizing the app for that local area. So it's essentially like a locally based response for them.
Thanks, Jen.
I'm really sorry about my issues without being able to unmute. Jen's just covered everything that I would have said, so apologies for that. But just to build on what Jen just said, our approach to kind of all of our community building is highly collaborative. So we work with kind of individual practitioners as well as sort of larger local authorities or any partners, really, in quite a bespoke way. So building those relationships from kind of the ground up is really, really important to us. And a lot of those relationships actually they don't finish once projects are delivered and things like that. We're very much kind of here to build a family as much as anything. And I think about the early years is it's really becoming quite a powerful voice, and it's kind of, you know, communities like this that really help to push forward like a cohesive message. So yeah, just to add on that.
Thank you. Okay, we've got lots more questions coming in, which is brilliant. So a question of clarification from Sarah: is it a standalone app anyone can access, or is the idea that it's adopted by an organisation and then used through them?
Yeah, no, I can take a stab at that one, Sarah. The answer is both. So the app is freely available to anyone. It can be downloaded right now for free by anyone in this group or any parent anywhere. And that's the same for practitioners, experts, or organizations who wish to download, create their own profile and start sharing content through the app. That can be done completely for free. But what we also do is we enter into partnership with a range of partners that you would have seen on that slide. Those can be funded through a range of different funders, or we can have direct relationships with health and education bodies. And through that, what we can do is work in that more bespoke way to customize the app and the communications around the app to specifically respond to kind of local need and local strategies. So some aspects of that, like when we looked at the emails and push notifications, local signposting, our community team working in the local community, but also things like the data dashboard and being able to kind of collect data unique to your area. Those are things that we look to work through bespoke partnerships with to accomplish. So there's sort of like a free base that anyone can use, and then there's sort of like additional services that we can offer to kind of boost impact through local partnership. And I'm very happy to share more on that. I do have a slide actually with some contact details that I can flash up before the session is over as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Jen. So there's a question from Sue that follows on from that. And how does the bespoke community aspect of the app work when you've got a large and diverse community or a large county?
Yeah, so our sort of like our core way of working, I guess there's sort of two levels to this. So we have, the app has the ability, through our partnerships, we have the ability to customize communications that go out through the app and around the app based on like key priorities within that local area. So as the examples I gave, it could be breastfeeding or language and communication or physical development and nutrition. In general, our sort of core starting point with a partner would be to choose 5 of these areas based on early conversation about what's important. And we would then tailor the communications and local signposting to those areas. But there's a sort of a deeper layer, I suppose, which we would call like the personalized aspect of the service, which is completely down to each individual parent and what they tell us in their profile when they're onboarding. So each individual parent, they might get those communications about what's important locally in the area, but they're also telling us in onboarding the age of their child, the topics and challenges that they're struggling with and particularly interested in. And all of that profile data is being fed into the AI discovery engine and pushing content out to them, which is relevant and timely for what they're focused on now. The other thing is it doesn't just stop at that point. This is like a growing, a sort of growing relationship with that parent. So we're also collecting, well, what pieces of content are they clicking on and spending the most time on? What are they liking? What are they favoriting? What are they commenting on? And all of that data is helping our discovery engine learn about that parent and then serve up even more relevant content to them going forward. And as our content base grows and we get more people involved, that whole process will become more and more effective. So essentially what we're doing is we're providing like different layers of like customization and personalization, which are all designed to improve the overall impact of that app and make it as like unique and relevant to each parent and family as possible.
Thanks, Jen. Sweeta asked a question of, is there a process of quality control on the material being created and shared on the app?
Yes, there is. And I actually, well, I'll start this off and then I'll let Steph talk a little bit more about how our sort of monitoring works. But the first thing is to say that we actually organize all of our content around the ages and stages framework. So whenever a new piece of content comes onto the app, it's being sort of organized and assessed against what's age, what age it's appropriate for and which area of child development it sits in. And we also have a sort of monitoring process in place to ensure that there's no inappropriate content on the app. And Steph can maybe talk a little bit about how that works. That's very much driven by the community.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. Yeah, as Jen mentioned, we have kind of a very clear moderation process in place to look at kind of quality, but also ensure that any content that is, you know, user generated is kind of appropriate for all the various different pointers that we check it for. So yeah, we do have that in place, and it's something that I work quite closely on. And we do also work very closely with all of our individual partners, as well as a lot of our parent creators that we've collaborated with over the years to kind of really look at the type of content that's being shared on the app. Jen's already talked about sort of how we fit that in with our ages and stages framework.
Thank you. So Jill asked the question of, you mentioned one of the targeted characteristics with children with English as a second language, and she's asking about how the app addresses that in terms of parents who might not be able to speak or read English well.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think so. The reference that I made to EAL was actually I was describing how settings were being matched in a particular evaluation. So that was actually just making sure in that study that the two groups of settings were kind of similar in terms of the profile of the children and the families who were attending. And that's just kind of like an important way of ensuring that evaluations are like rigorous and that we're not comparing like apples with oranges. So I think that's where that particular reference came in. But it's a really good question in the sense of yeah, how well it does work for EAL families. And you know, there's so many learnings actually that have come through about this over the course of developing the app. One of our very first evaluations, which I didn't share, was based on families in Newham through a partnership with the local authority there, that was largely EAL, Pakistani and Bangladeshi communities, where we again saw some pretty kind of powerful impact whilst we were there. I think some of the things that help, well, first of all, a point on functionality. There's absolutely nothing to stop anyone from going onto the app, creating a piece of content in any language that is supported through their phone, which is going to be every language. So there's absolutely no barrier to sharing content in any language right now. This is not something that we see loads of on the app currently, but there's no like barrier to us working in that way, or sort of or for parents themselves or experts, practitioners doing that if they wish. That said, I think there's a lot of aspects about the way the app is designed that support parents who speak English as an additional language in any case. And again, as I said, we've seen that come through some of our evaluations. I think part of that is like the visual nature of the app, the interactive nature. So, you know, it feels a little bit more like a social media feed, like an Instagram feed. It's just that it's backed with lots more kind of quality and sort of evidence, and the content is much more evergreen. But I think having really bite-sized content, which is easy to consume, it's visual. A lot of the content actually has audio as well and video, and all of these different elements kind of help to engage parents, not just who are EAL, but who maybe have like lower levels of literacy, and actually for all of us in a way, we've become much more familiar with consuming content, which is quite short, easy to consume, and sort of visual in its nature. And my sense and a lot of our like qualitative evaluation has sort of emphasized this to us, that those are all elements that are helping families who may be less likely to engage with the sorts of content that's on the app. Maybe a final thing to say as well is, you know, we know that parents ultimately learn and get advice on parenting from each other, as much as we love them to come to all of these other sources of advice as well. And I think having real parents, you know, sharing content, ideas, advice through their own profiles is engaging for parents to see on the app, and it makes them perhaps more likely to engage with what's on there than perhaps other sources might.
Thanks, Jen. I'm going to give you a breather now because I'm conscious I'm making you talk a lot, and I'm going to just pass this next question to Alice. So Alice, we've got a question from Patrick who says, have you seen benefit of the collective impact as a result of the work in Margate?
Yes, thanks. So we haven't done our approach to sort of evaluation is not specifically a collective impact approach, but we are, as part of the early learning community project, we have set up an evaluation of all of the early learning communities through with some partners, MPC and Collaborate. So I'd be really happy to kind of share a little bit more about that with people after this if they would like it. But broadly, we've developed a matrix for sort of what does good look like in terms of working together as a system, and how our community is kind of progressing along that process, and that's something that we are keen to sort of share with others as well, and certainly are already beginning to do so with some other communities. So we're very, very happy to talk to that or share more materials on that if that's helpful.
Thanks, Alice, that's great. If you have got stuff that you want to share when we send round recordings and slides from today's, then do send me the links and I can share with everybody. Okay, we're getting close to the end of the webinar, so I'm going to group some questions together. The first one, probably back to you, Jen, is just a really quick factual one. So we've had questions about where the app is available, any intention to work with organisations in Scotland, and is it available in Newham?
Yes, we are open. So we would absolutely love to work with partners in Scotland. We have had some engagement, I think, through NHS Scotland. But we would love to hear from you and love to chat. Most of our operation is in England and the UK. We're also open in Australia and the US as well. And so, yeah, we would just absolutely love to hear from anyone and take forward those partnership conversations. The app is absolutely available in Newham. It's available to any parent who wants to, or partner who wants to download it right now. And we would love for you to do so, and then to reach out to talk about, more kind of bespoke partnerships as we've described.
And Susan asked us, linked to that, is there a cost in kind of upgrading and developing those partnerships with you?
Yeah, so as I said, the app itself is absolutely free and always will be. To work in that way, to kind of set up what Martin showed you, where we have that bespoke dashboard for the partner, we create a sort of an agreement to reach X number of families through a local area. That's all based on the population of parents with children from birth to 5 within a local area. So that's how our kind of pricing will work if you reach out to us about that. So through that, there's annual access for all of the parents within the local community to access Easy Peasy. And it's then our job as partners to actually reach as many as possible through the sorts of activities that Steph was describing, and through kind of effective use of the data dashboard to actually drive activity around distribution and so on. And as I mentioned, as we get into kind of scale with this, we're looking at costs per families that are kind of lower, that ultimately get lower than £1. So yeah, we can share more detail with anyone who's interested after the session as well.
Thanks, Jen. A couple of questions relating to working with really young babies. So if you could tell us a bit about kind of how it works for 0 to 1-year-olds, and whether you've got kind of partnerships with health visiting services as well as part of that.
Yeah. I'm sorry that I'm dominating all of these answers. I would be fielding them to others, but I feel it would be unfair because I'm probably best placed to just get through some of this factual stuff. So we do support parents from birth to 5 of their child. And so we have a lot of content on the app, which is aimed at parents who have babies and infants. One of our early content partners actually was NCT, and we have a huge a bank of content under their profile, which you can visit right now and have a look at. So yes, we're absolutely available for young parents of young children. We started out our journey focused on just the higher age range within 0 to 5. So we started out focusing on 2 to 5. And in the past couple of years, through a big partnership with the Wellcome Trust, we expanded and extended down to birth. So this is like a newer area for us, and we're very keen to make links with health visiting midwifery services. And we'd absolutely love to hear from you about that. So do reach out.
Great, brilliant. Well, our time has come to an end. A big message there, I think, for everybody who's watching to go on your website, download the app, have a look, share it with families, and to connect with you guys about establishing some of those partnerships going forward. Thank you so much for your time. This has been brilliant. For anybody watching who wants to share any of the content from today with colleagues, we can share the slides afterwards, but there will also be caption recording from today, so you can share that as well. Jen, you mentioned you had a slide of contact details, so do you want to share that as everybody's checking out?
I did, and I feel like what I'm missing is Alice's, but I'm going to share that right now, and I'm going to type Alice's in as she tells it to me so that everyone can see it. So Alice, fire away.
A.Faulkner at